Imagine the vast, sun-kissed expanse of the open ocean, a realm of breathtaking beauty and untold mystery. Beneath its shimmering surface, a silent world teems with life. But what if this very sanctuary, this cradle of life, was being systematically poisoned by someone who walked among us, a figure of immense wealth and power, operating in the shadows? What happens when unimaginable corporate greed collides head-on with an equally unimaginable force of quiet determination? Prepare yourselves, because the story you're about to hear unveils a dark secret, a toxic conspiracy, and an unlikely hero who decided the price of silence was far too high. The architect of this clandestine operation was a man known to the world as Alistair Finch, a billionaire magnate whose public persona was meticulously crafted. He was the philanthropist, the innovator, the visionary who spoke of sustainable futures at glittering galas. Yet, behind the charming smile and the generous donations lay a chilling duplicity. Rumors, dismissed as whispers of disgruntled rivals or overly zealous environmentalists, occasionally surfaced, hinting at less than savory practices within his sprawling global enterprises, but Finch's PR machine was always quick to smooth over any such inconvenient narratives with practiced ease and a well-placed charitable contribution. Finch's most profitable and most secretive venture involved a fleet of nondescript cargo ships. Officially, they were part of a complex global logistics network, moving legitimate goods across continents. Unofficially, under the cloak of darkness and far from prying eyes and shipping lanes, these vessels served a far more sinister purpose. They were the linchpin in a vast, sophisticated operation designed for one thing: the cheap, illegal disposal of highly toxic industrial waste, a byproduct of some of his other more legitimate but environmentally costly manufacturing arms. This saved Finch billions, but the cost to the planet was incalculable. The sheer scale of the dumping was staggering. For years, possibly over a decade, this fleet had methodically crisscrossed remote stretches of the ocean, releasing plumes of chemical cocktails into the deep. The operation was a masterpiece of nefarious efficiency, utilizing advanced scheduling to avoid satellite detection, bribing port officials in less regulated regions, and falsifying manifests with surgical precision. They targeted deep ocean trenches and currents they believed would disperse the evidence, a deadly gamble with the planet's largest ecosystem, all in the pursuit of ever-expanding profit margins. The ocean's vastness was their shield, its depths their dumping ground. Occasionally, small, isolated incidents would flare up: a strange die-off of fish reported by a remote island community, an unusual chemical slick spotted by a passing yacht. But these were quickly contained. Finch's legal team, a veritable army of high-powered attorneys, was adept at discrediting witnesses, burying reports in bureaucratic red tape, or settling quietly with gag orders attached. The few brave journalists or local activists who dared to dig deeper often found themselves facing intimidation, character assassination campaigns, or suddenly losing their funding. It seemed Alistair Finch was untouchable. His power was a fortress, built on layers of shell corporations, offshore accounts and influential connections that reached into the highest echelons of government and industry. He cultivated an image of a benevolent titan, a job creator, a man whose enterprises were too vital to be seriously questioned. The system itself seemed designed to protect men like him, allowing their transgressions to be either ignored or rationalized, away as the unfortunate but necessary cost of progress. Who, then, could possibly pierce this armor of wealth and influence to expose the rot within? The silent, creeping devastation began to manifest in ways that were hard to ignore, at least for those who looked closely. Vibrant coral reefs, the rainforests of the sea, started to bleach and crumble, turning into ghostly white graveyards. Vast stretches of the ocean floor, once teeming with life, became barren dead zones, starved of oxygen by the chemical onslaught. The toxins, invisible yet potent, were working their way up the food chain, a slow, insidious poison spreading through the intricate web of marine existence, a tragedy unfolding unseen by most of the world. The toll on marine creatures was heartbreaking. Fish were found with grotesque tumors and lesions. Dolphins and whales, confused and disoriented by the contaminated waters, began washing ashore in alarming numbers, their bodies a grim testament to the poison silently spreading. Seabirds, diving for fish, ingested the toxins, their feathers losing their luster, their colonies dwindling. These were not just statistics. Each creature was a life extinguished, a note silenced in the ocean symphony, victims of a greed they could never comprehend. The poison didn't stop at the water's edge. Coastal communities, particularly in less developed nations where Finch's ships often lurked near territorial waters, began to suffer. Fishermen, whose families had relied on the ocean's bounty for generations, found their nets coming up empty or filled with diseased catch. Mysterious illnesses started to appear in villages that had once been healthy, their only crime being proximity to the polluted waters. Yet, connecting these localized tragedies to a global billionaire's secret operation seemed an impossible leap for many. Small, underfunded groups of marine biologists and local environmental activists raised alarms. They meticulously documented the declining biodiversity, the strange chemical signatures in the water, the unexplained deaths of marine animals. They presented their findings at obscure conferences, wrote passionate pleas to international bodies, but their voices were often drowned out by the roar of global commerce and the well-funded skepticism orchestrated by Finch's proxies. They had the passion and the localized data, but lacked the global platform or the hard, undeniable proof. The toxins spread like a phantom menace, seeping into currents, carried across thousands of miles, a legacy of pollution that would haunt the oceans for decades, perhaps centuries. It was a slow-motion disaster, a crime against nature committed with cold, calculated intent, hidden beneath the waves and the veneer of corporate respectability. The ocean was weeping, its delicate balance teetering, its cries for help lost in the vastness of its own suffering, unheard by those who held the power to stop the bleeding. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away from the poisoned waters, Keanu Reeves was navigating his own world. Perhaps he was between film projects, absorbed in his passion for motorcycles, or simply seeking a moment of quiet contemplation away from the relentless glare of Hollywood. He was a man known for his introspective nature, his quiet acts of kindness, and a deeply ingrained sense of fairness, though he rarely broadcast these qualities, preferring a life of relative normalcy despite his global fame. He was not an obvious candidate to take on a shadowy corporate titan. The first inkling of Alistair Finch's dark secret reached Keanu not through a high-level briefing, but through a far more unassuming channel. It might have been a forwarded email from a passionate fan involved in marine conservation, a link to an obscure online article detailing unexplained oceanic dead zones, or perhaps a small, independently produced documentary he stumbled upon late one night. The initial report was fragmented, lacking the full picture, but something about the desperate plea for the ocean's well-being resonated deeply within him. His initial reaction was likely one of disbelief, mixed with a growing unease. The world was full of injustices, many of them overwhelming. But this particular story, the deliberate, systematic poisoning of the very source of life on our planet for profit, struck a dissonant chord. It wasn't just an environmental issue, it was a profound moral failing, a betrayal of a sacred trust. Keanu, known for his empathy, couldn't shake the images and the quiet accusations the report contained. Driven by a nagging sense of disquiet, Keanu began to pull at the threads. He didn't call a press conference or issue a statement. Instead, he started his own quiet, personal inquiry, leveraging his resources in ways that wouldn't attract attention. He reached out to trusted contacts, individuals with expertise in maritime law, environmental science, and investigative journalism, asking discreet questions, seeking more information, trying to separate fact from speculation. His quest was not for glory, but for understanding. The turning point came with a piece of irrefutable evidence. Perhaps it was a leaked internal memo from one of Finch's companies, a satellite image procured by a persistent activist group that Finch's team hadn't managed to suppress, or a first-hand account from a guilt-ridden former crew member of one of the toxic fleet. This piece of the puzzle, small yet damning, transformed Keanu's concern into a cold, hard resolve. The sheer scale of the deception and the callous disregard for life, both human and marine, was undeniable. He realized then that his unique position offered him a platform, a voice that could cut through the noise and the carefully constructed denials. It wasn't a role he had sought, but it was one he now felt compelled to embrace. The knowledge of Finch's actions became a heavy weight, a responsibility to act not just for the oceans, but for the principle of justice itself. The quiet man of Hollywood was about to step onto a very different kind of stage, one where the stakes were infinitely higher. With his conviction solidified, Keanu understood that exposing a man like Alistair Finch required more than just passion. It demanded irrefutable proof and a meticulously planned strategy. He began to assemble a small, highly trusted team, working in utmost secrecy. This inner circle included a tenacious investigative journalist, known for her work on corporate malfeasance, a forensic accountant skilled at unraveling complex financial webs, and a maritime security expert who understood the shadowy world of illicit shipping operations. Their mission was clear: gather undeniable evidence. The investigation was fraught with peril. Finch's organization had eyes and ears everywhere, and the billionaire had proven he was ruthless when his interests were threatened. The team operated with extreme caution, using encrypted communications, meeting in nondescript locations, and meticulously verifying every piece of information. They knew that any leak, any misstep, could not only jeopardize the investigation, but potentially put them in real danger. The pressure was immense, but their resolve, fueled by Keanu's quiet determination, never wavered. Their breakthrough came after months of painstaking work. The forensic accountant discovered a hidden ledger that detailed payments for specialized maritime services, a euphemism for the illegal dumping. Simultaneously, the maritime expert, using advanced satellite tracking and analysis of shipping patterns, identified a specific vessel from Finch's fleet, repeatedly deviating from its declared route to loiter in a remote, ecologically sensitive area. The final piece was a series of high-resolution photographs taken by a daring drone operation funded by Keanu, showing barrels being jettisoned from the deck of that very ship. With a mountain of evidence compiled, financial records, satellite data, photographic proof, and even a corroborated whistleblower testimony they managed to secure, Keanu and his team strategized the exposure. They decided against a piecemeal leak, opting instead for a coordinated, overwhelming disclosure. They partnered with a globally respected consortium of investigative journalists, ensuring the story would break simultaneously across multiple major media outlets, making it impossible for Finch to suppress or discredit it effectively. The stage was set for the unmasking. The day the story broke, it sent shockwaves around the world. Front-page headlines screamed of Finch's toxic secret. News channels ran extensive reports, showcasing the damning evidence Keanu's team had gathered. Environmental organizations armed with concrete proof amplified the call for justice. Finch's carefully crafted public image shattered in an instant, replaced by that of an environmental criminal, a man who had prioritized profit over the planet's health and the lives of countless creatures. The public outcry was immediate and immense. Protests erupted outside Finch's corporate headquarters and government buildings. Social media exploded with outrage, the hashtag #FinchToxicFleet trending globally. Governments, which had previously turned a blind eye or accepted Finch's explanations, were now under intense pressure to act. The billionaire, once seemingly invincible, found himself cornered, his empire of deceit crumbling under the weight of the exposed truth, all set in motion by the unexpected intervention of a Hollywood star. Alistair Finch, accustomed to controlling the narrative, scrambled to respond. His high-priced PR team issued flat denials, his lawyers threatened lawsuits against the media outlets, and he even attempted a public address, painting himself as a victim of a smear campaign. But the evidence presented was too compelling, too detailed, too visually damning. His bluster and threats rang hollow against the stark reality of his actions. The carefully constructed facade of the benevolent philanthropist had been irrevocably destroyed. Official investigations were launched in multiple countries. Regulatory bodies, once perhaps lenient or easily swayed by Finch's influence, now faced intense public scrutiny and had no choice but to act decisively. Finch's stock prices plummeted, major investors pulled out, and business partners distanced themselves, fearing association with his toxic reputation. His vast fortune, built on a foundation of environmental destruction, began to unravel as assets were frozen and legal challenges mounted from all sides. The empire built on lies was collapsing. Amidst the financial ruin and legal battles, Finch's notorious fleet of dumping ships became a significant liability, seized by authorities in various ports or simply docked and unwanted as their illicit purpose was exposed. The vessels were a stark reminder of his crimes. Eventually, facing liquidation of assets to cover fines and legal costs, the entire fleet was put up for sale, a collection of pariah vessels nobody in legitimate shipping wanted to touch. They were symbols of oceanic desecration, destined, it seemed, for the scrapyard. Then came the twist that no one, least of all Alistair Finch, saw coming. In a quiet, unpublicized series of transactions, an anonymous buyer began acquiring the disgraced ships one by one. Speculation was rife. Was it another shadowy corporation looking for cheap assets? A front for Finch trying to regain control? The mystery deepened until a brief, almost understated announcement was made. Keanu Reeves was the new owner of Alistair Finch's entire toxic fleet. The world was stunned. Why would he buy these symbols of pollution? Keanu's explanation, when it came, was simple yet profound. He hadn't purchased the fleet for profit, nor did he intend to continue their old operations. He bought them, he stated, to ensure they could never again be used to harm the oceans. He saw an opportunity not just to stop the damage, but to actively reverse it, to transform these instruments of destruction into tools of healing and discovery. It was an act of audacious hope, a commitment to turning a negative into a positive on a grand scale. His plan was ambitious. The toxic fleet would be reborn. He announced he was partnering with leading marine biology institutes, ocean conservation groups, and engineering firms to refit and repurpose each vessel. Some would become state-of-the-art research platforms equipped to study marine ecosystems and monitor pollution. Others would be converted into specialized cleanup ships designed to tackle plastic waste and other contaminants. The very ships that had poisoned the seas would now work to cleanse them. The transformation began almost immediately. Shipyards buzzed with activity as the vessels were stripped of their old identities and retrofitted with new technology. Grimy holds that once carried toxic barrels were converted into advanced laboratories and living quarters for scientists. Cranes once used for illicit dumping were repurposed to deploy research equipment and remotely operated vehicles for exploring and cleaning the seabed. The rusted hulls were repainted in bright, hopeful colors, emblazoned with new names signifying their new purpose: Ocean Guardian, Sea Shepherd, Wave Healer. The newly christened Reeves Oceanic Restoration Fleet embarked on its first missions. Scientists and environmentalists, equipped with cutting-edge tools and a renewed sense of purpose, sailed to areas previously devastated by Finch's activities. They began the painstaking work of assessing the damage, collecting data, and implementing innovative cleanup technologies. The sight of these ships, once harbingers of pollution, now actively working to heal the ocean, was a powerful symbol of redemption and change. The impact was tangible. In areas where the refitted ships deployed experimental bioremediation techniques, delicate marine ecosystems began to show early signs of recovery. Data collected by the research vessels provided invaluable insights into the long-term effects of toxic dumping and helped inform global policies on ocean protection. Coastal communities once blighted saw a glimmer of hope as the waters around them slowly began to clear and marine life started to return, however tentatively. Keanu's intervention became a global inspiration. It wasn't just about stopping uncorrupt Billionaire. It was a demonstration of how individual commitment, when combined with resources and a bold vision, could effect monumental positive change. His actions sparked a renewed global conversation about corporate responsibility, the urgent need for ocean conservation, and the power of celebrity to be a genuine force for good, far beyond mere endorsements or photo opportunities. The world watched, not just with admiration for Keanu, but with a dawning realization that the fight for the planet's health was everyone's fight. His bold purchase and repurposing of the fleet moved beyond a news story. It became a modern parable of redemption, not just for the ships, but for the possibility of humanity correcting its course. It showed that even the most egregious wrongs could, with will and ingenuity, be turned towards a brighter, cleaner future. This incredible saga, from a billionaire's toxic secret to Keanu Reeves's audacious act of buying and transforming an entire fleet, serves as a powerful reminder that even in the face of overwhelming greed and environmental destruction, courage, ingenuity, and a deep-seated empathy can forge a path towards healing and justice. It proves that one person's determination can, indeed, shift paradigms and inspire a wave of positive action. If this story of unexpected heroism and oceanic redemption moved you, please show your support by hitting that like button, subscribing for more inspiring content, and sharing this video to spread the message of hope and accountability. What other public figure do you believe possesses the conviction to undertake such a transformative mission for our planet? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.